Okay, so our conscience. So you can't actually control our conscience. Even criminals, they know what they're doing is wrong. They can't actually eradicate the sense of what they're doing is wrong, but they just don't feel bad about it anymore. They don't feel conscience-stricken anymore. So in that sense, guilt is quite a good thing. It's like, guilt is like, when you feel guilty, you feel like you hurt your soul. You damage your soul. It's a bit like, sticking your hand on a hot plate. You feel pain and you withdraw it. You realize, I made a mistake. Yeah? So if you didn't feel pain and you left your hand on the hot plate, your hand starts smelling, burning flesh. Okay, so pain is a good thing. In that sense, guilt is a good thing. Guilt is there to tell you what you did was wrong. And you feel you've hurt yourself. Don't do it again. You have to restore your conscience. So conscience then is a bit like a compass, telling us what's right and what is wrong. Usually telling us what is wrong. There are lots of different things that are right, and only a few things are actually wrong. And so we should always listen to our conscience and always follow our conscience and always do what is good and avoid evil. And if we don't do that, then our conscience will judge and accuse us. So the conscience then, so how important is the conscience? Well, this is the Father said, a conscience is higher than your teacher. So if your teacher tells you to do something which you feel is wrong, should you do it or not? No. Conscience is higher than your parents. If your parents tell you to do something which is wrong, should you do it? No. My mother, always tells a story when she was a little girl. One day, somebody came to the door, and her mother didn't want to meet this person who came to the door. So my grandmother told my mother, go and tell him I'm not in. And my mother didn't know what to do. How can I tell a lie? But also, how can I disobey my mother? So what's the way out of it?
My mother said.
Yes. You open the door, my mother said she's not in. Anyway, so, if your parents tell you to do something's wrong, don't do it. If God tells you to do something which you think is wrong, should you do it or not? No. So that's why Abraham argued with God about all sorts of things. Yeah? So in that sense, conscience is higher than all of these. And so what Timothy said, by rejecting conscience, certain persons have made shipwrecks of their faith. So basic rule then is never go against your conscience. So make sure you always keep a clear conscience. So, if somebody tells you to do something you feel it's wrong, just don't do it. Just so, it's against my conscience, I'm not going to do it. You never go against your conscience. It doesn't mean that what they're asking you to do is necessarily wrong, but if you think it's wrong, just don't do it. Never go against your conscience. But the other thing is also to make sure your conscience is properly formed. Yeah? So this means make sure you have a straight conscience. So we make sure you have a properly formed conscience through study, scriptures, moral codes, through prayer. We can make sure our conscience is properly formed. They haven't got a deformed conscience. Sometimes people, their conscience is a bit finicky about some things. You need to make sure, also by thinking about it reasonably, yes, is this really wrong or not? Okay, so what's the original mind? So the conscience, then, as I said, is external. It's a standard of truth. But also we have an original mind which is internal, which is striving for a higher standard and pursuing absolute goodness. So it's just like when you go to school. If you are a serious student and you come across something you don't understand, what will you do? You ask, and if your teacher doesn't know the answer, what will you do? You go and find somebody else. Or you go into the library and you get a book, and you find this particular book doesn't answer the question, so you go and get a book at a higher level, a university book, and that hasn't got the answer. Then you go to the journals and you start looking at the papers. Yes, because you want to have this irresistible desire to understand the truth, to understand, well, how does it really work? So this is like an expression of our original mind. We're not satisfied necessarily with the answer we're given, because we want to understand, okay, that's the answer to that question, but that brings up another question. I want to understand more deeply, why is this happening? So that's our original mind then, this this pursuing truth, beauty, truth and goodness, relentlessly striving for perfection, relentlessly striving for a higher standard, not satisfied with the way in which things are, but wanting to make things better. Yes, that's the original mind, which St. Augustine said, "You've made us, O Lord, for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you." So people got this, some people, not everybody, got this original mind, which means they fast and they pray and do all kinds of things because they want to achieve this kind of relationship with God. And this is expressed very well in Psalm 119, as a psalm which reveals very well the original mind. As it says, and these are a few little quotes here. "With my whole heart I seek thee. Let me not wander away from your commandments." So this is the person who's saying, with his whole heart, he's just seeking God. He wants to live his life according to God's law and God's way. Again, down the bottom there, "My eyes shed streams of tears because men do not keep your law." Yeah? Again, "I find delight in your commandments, which I love, and I'll meditate on your statutes." So this kind of original mind which loves goodness, it loves to study, it loves to worship God, it loves all this sort of thing. It delights in being good. Okay, it's the original mind. So in that sense, and so, as one gets older, our conscience then should become higher. If you discover a higher standard of truth and a higher standard of goodness, actually your conscience will change. You'll realize, actually, what I thought was wrong is actually okay. And actually, what I thought was okay is actually wrong. Yeah? So people often have this experience when they hear the principle. They may, or anything, they may have been living a certain way of life, and suddenly they hear God's word, and suddenly they evaluate their life according to God's word, and suddenly they realize, actually, the way I've been living my life hasn't been right. And they would change. Sometimes overnight, their whole life is transformed and changed. That's the original mind. So what's the evil mind? Well, this is evil mind is formed, again, spiritual mind, physical mind, centered on Satan. Well, not many people go around worshipping Satan. This is expressed in our daily life when we enjoy doing things that are evil. For example, some people, who enjoy making other people unhappy, who actually, getting revenge, for example. If somebody hurts you, you can get revenge and you can get your own back. How do you feel? You feel good, you feel happy, this sort of evil sense of, joy and happiness. Or, you see somebody who, you may have a cruddy little car, and somebody else who you don't like has got a Rolls Royce or a Porsche or whatever it is that you like. And, you feel envious. And if that person's car has an accident, you may feel good. So that's like the evil mind. It rejoices in evil. It's happy when other people suffer. Yeah, that's the kind of evil mind, envious. Where's a... Pardon?
Schadenfreude.
Who?
Schadenfreude.
Yeah, the Germans have got a word for it, Schadenfreude. Whereas the original mind, it sees people who are not living a good life, it sheds tears. Yeah? You actually feel, you see somebody's doing bad things, and that person suffers, actually you feel compassion for that person. That's the original mind. The evil mind is you just enjoy doing evil and you're happy when people you don't like suffer. Okay? All right, that's the end. This one? That's, thank you. I'd be glad I've finished early for a change.